Hello, hello, hello. Let's go another day. Do you like the snow? Do you like the cold? I don't. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of the cold. Definitely not a fan of the snow. However, I was raised in Massachusetts. It's extremely cold over there. The snows, winters are pretty tough. However, not a fan. Not a fan at all. There was one time that I had moved back to Massachusetts and I was living with my brother. And everything was fine, everything was good until it started to snow. When it started to snow, I told my brother, I'm not dealing with the snow. I'm moving back to Florida, not about the snow life. And he begged and he begged and he begged. And I was like, nope, I'm leaving. And he said, I'll make you a deal. If you stay, I promise to drive you to work every time that it snows. And I was like, really? He was like, I promise you, every time that it snows, you don't have to drive. I'll drive you to work. But don't move back to Florida. And you guys know what? I actually stayed. And he actually did drive me to work. But you know why I stayed? Because I knew that my brother was going to be a person of his word. I knew that he knew how much I hated to drive in the snow. I mean, I have left a car in the snowbank because I'm not about the snow life. Just don't like it. So, but the time that he said, I will drive you to work, don't even worry about it. I knew that my brother was going to follow through in that. So not only knowing that we were in the same place that he was going to do this for me, but I had peace. So his presence brought me peace and his action brought me peace. So that is kind of what I feel, and I hope that you feel and can experience too when I think about God. The more that I look for God, the more that I look for Him, the more I experience His presence in my life, and the more peace I have. Doesn't mean it changes things, doesn't mean it makes things better. It just makes things tolerable. It makes me have more tolerance to it. It allows me to be able to go through things in a manner that I know that I'm not alone. I know that I have support. I know that I have someone that is with me through this, and which means that I can overcome. I can. So it brought me to the scriptures of Psalms 46. Read the whole thing as usual. But there's a part in there that it tells you of all these things that can happen, and all the things that are that I mean, it's very descriptive. It'll tell you about the ocean, and it says, the river whose streams make the city of God. Let's see where it goes. This is God is our refuge, our strength, a very ready help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear though the earth shakes, the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at his swelling pride. I mean, it's pretty intense all that's happening here. But it starts with God is my refuge and my strength. And those moments that my brother was very supportive of me, something so silly as not wanting to drive in the snow as an adult, yet my brother was willing to be so supportive because he wanted my presence with him. He wanted me to be with him, do life with him. Yet I didn't see his desire for me to be with him. It was my desire to have trust and faith in him that he was going to do that. But you see how it was kind of a mutual thing? That's how God is with us. God is saying, I want you to be with me. I want you to look for me. I want you to be around me because you know what? I'm going to give you strength. I'm going to be your refuge. I'm going to allow you to go through things, but I'm going to be with you. I'm going to conquer things. I mean, all the things that God's going to do for us just because we seek his presence, and he wants us to be around him. So interesting enough, today the theme for my life seems to be absolutes. And I know that we've talked about absolutes a couple times here. I know that we've talked about absolutes, but I have been talking today specifically with a few people about having absolutes in your life, having things that you say they're non-negotiables for you. And once you establish that for your life, once you start wavering, once you start doubting yourself or start questioning yourself or start feeling a certain type of way, start doing a certain things, start speaking a certain type of way, acting a certain type of way, and you've got to kind of step back and say, wait a minute, my absolutes are these. These are the things that I have decided that are not negotiables for me. And you know what? What does that look like for you? Could be different for you than they are for me. They should be different for you than they are for me. But there's a lot of things. For example, on a practical level, an absolute for me is no yelling. Yes, you can be in your emotions. Yes, you raise your tone. Yes, you raise your voice. I get it. I do it too. Been there, done that, working on it. But what I'm saying is an absolute for me is I am not okay with someone yelling at me. It's not something to discuss. It's not something that I'm willing to negotiate. Not an absolute for me. I mean, it is a complete absolute for me, not negotiable for me. That's something practical. There's a few things, not many, let me tell you, because we can't have all these absolutes like, nah, you can't do this. Just practical things. But there's things that are triggers for us that we just can't negotiate on that. The Word of God is the same way, So to establish absolutes in your life, for me, I'm going to talk about for me. Maybe you can apply it for your life too. But in the beginning of the year, we started this 21-day fast, right? And we did the prayer and the Bible studies. And there was 3 things that we focused on that I allowed them to become my absolutes. So the first week we talked about God's presence, right? And making sure that God's presence is in different areas of our life, like our thoughts, our families, our friendship, our workplace, our finances, our suffering, and in the future. So the point is, my absolute was God's presence. So I brought God's presence into all the areas of my life because the absolute was God's presence. So wherever I was, whatever I was doing, God's presence is an absolute in my life. Non-negotiable. So even if I was in places that I shouldn't be, even if I was having conversations that I shouldn't have had, even if no matter what I felt, no matter what I did, the absolute is God's presence. Non-negotiable. That helps develop those discipline in me that I can always align myself. So no matter where I was, no matter what I was doing, no matter what I was thinking, no matter what I was saying, God's presence is there. That was my absolute. So no matter what I felt, I had to align myself to that. And no matter what I was thinking, I had to come to terms that that was my absolute. My other absolute was asking God for his involvement in my life. And we talked about his involvement in church, in the city, in our nation, in the world, the next generation, in our marriage, in families. What's the absolute? Asking God to be involved. So that means no matter what I did, no matter who I did it with, the absolute was that God was going to be involved. And the last absolute that I am applying to my life that we started in the beginning of the year was following God's instructions. Period. Whatever God's instructions are in the Word of God, that's an absolute for me. So when I wanted to do things my way and it didn't align with the Word of God, I'm going against my own absolute. So the point is to create these absolutes in my life, to create these disciplines in my life so that what happens, I can find peace. So bringing it back to even as simple as my brother driving me to work. To me, my absolute for that specific situation was my brother was going to take me to work no matter what. And I trusted that. And I seeked his presence. I seeked being around him because he was giving me safety and peace. And that simple concept, I was able to learn and apply it in my spiritual walk with God. And I hope that you're able to do that too. So create some absolutes in your life. Establish some things in your life that will align yourself, that you will check yourself, bring yourself to order, and bring so that you can have peace and joy in God, because we can, and you can too. Well, talk to you soon. Have an amazing time. And like I said, see you soon. Subscribe, like, share, comment. See you very, very soon.